Okay, hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Grown and Sanctified Divas Network Diva Discussions. And for those of you who are not familiar with me or you don't know who I am, my name is Chatney White. I am the founder and CEO of Grown and Sanctified Divas Network. And our mission is to encourage, equip, and empower women across the globe on how to become, as well as to remain determined, inspired, virtuous, and anointed women of God, as well as to help push you towards fulfilling your kingdom assignment while living your best life now. So that is our mission. And so usually once a month, I host a Diva discussions. It typically is live on Facebook, on our Facebook page, as well as from my personal page. And if you're not already following our Current Sanctified Divas Network Facebook page, make sure that you do like and follow our page tonight. Uh, but tonight for our discussion, we are meeting here on Zoom because I wanted to be able to really get that live interaction and feedback from you all. And so um, tonight's discussion, it's dating. Our topic is dating as a diva, how to ditch the drama and level up your discernment, right? And so we're going to be getting and diving into that in just a moment. But first, um, well, let me backtrack a little bit also. So Diva Discussions, let me explain what Diva Discussions is all about. So Diva Discussions is basically a monthly discussion that I host for uh, our community to just basically talk about different and various topics to help us in our walk, to help us to be able to live that set apart and consecrated life to equip us and provide us with the tools and the strategies and the tips that we need living today as a Christian woman to not compromise, to provide that encouragement as well. So usually, what I try to pick topics that are near and dear to me or things that, I find important. But also every now and again, I may ask, is there any topics that you may want to talk about or anything that's really pressing that, you want to discuss or, just learn more about. So that's what deep discussions is. It's kind of like, our girl talk time, but it's a time as well to also to be empowered, equipped, and encouraged on this journey because I know most of us could agree that we all need to be, encouraged. Living as a Christian today in 2021, especially if you're really trying to walk this thing out, you're not just trying to talk the talk, but you're trying to walk it out, it's not easy. And so having a community of other like-minded women who also feel the same way, because for me, just a little bit about me, okay? I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I currently live in a small town outside of Raleigh and Roseville. I'm a single mom. I have one daughter. She's 11 years old. But for me, I got saved at a very young age. I've been saved ever since I was like 12 years old. And that was because it was forced on me or, I was threatened, if I didn't get baptized, I wasn't going to get no cake or nothing like that, none of that. So I got saved at a young age. I got baptized at a young age. And like most of us, I did fall off. I did fall away. I was in that backsliding condition, at a period of time in my life. Because, when you're young, especially, in your early 20s, you just kind of, like most women, I just wanted to have fun. But then eventually, I came on back and I rededicated my life. And I like to say I've been saved for real, ever since I was like around 21. Okay. And so, yeah, I've fallen off. Yeah, I made mistakes, just like anyone else. I haven't been perfect, but I've always had a desire to please God and to live right. Like even when I did things that were wrong, even before I got saved, like for real, I always had that desire to just live right and please God. I never felt good, doing things that I knew were wrong. But a lot of times, especially when you do get saved very young, it's not really a whole lot of people, in your peer group that are also really, trying to be saved, like for real, for real. You got people that, are Christian, or they may go to church on a regular basis, but it doesn't mean that they're really truly passionate about living for God and about walking this thing out. Now, fortunate for me, I did have two close friends in college that we kind of started our journey together, and it helped me. I'm telling you, it truly helped me to stay saved in college, because them college years, those could be the worst as well. So that helped me. But that's why I really wanted to, that's why I started the Grown and Sanctified Divas Network, a community, because I wanted to create and build and cultivate a community of women like me that have always wanted to, that are serious about their walk with God, that don't want to compromise, that do want to maintain and hold the standard as it pertains to being not just a Christian woman, but a kingdom woman. In this world today, it's not easy, because most people, what I found and what I see, is they're just kind of content with kind of, straddling the fence, or playing both sides, or playing in that gray area. And see, I'm not a gray area type of person. I'm a black and white type of person. So I always told God, I was like, look, if I'm gonna do this thing for you, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna be all the way in. It ain't gonna be no half stepping. I'm gonna be all the way in, or not in at all. And that's just how I am. So that's why I started and developed Grown and Sanctified Divas Network. And that's what this community is really all about, is just being able to connect with other women who also are on that same mentality, or have that desire as well, because it's already not easy. But what makes it a whole lot easier is when you have other people around you to, build you up and encourage you and support you on this journey, and are right there with you. Okay. Because I'll tell you, I've been a part of some sister groups, sister circles, and it wasn't really nothing sisterly about it, or it was a whole lot of backbiting, two-facedness, cattiness, all types of stuff. And see, that's not what this group is. That's not what this community is about. There won't be none of that over here. So if you're somebody like me and you don't really got time for that, you ain't trying to deal with that, but you really, really are about true sisterhood, and you really, really are about living for God wholeheartedly, and being sold out for God, and really, truly upholding and maintaining a standard, and being able to show and lead others as well along the way, then that's what Grown and Sanctified Divas is about. Okay, because being sanctified it really means to be set apart. It's not about wearing skirts down to your ankle and not wearing makeup or jewelry and none of that. It's a lifestyle. Okay, it's your posture. It's about really being set apart. So anyway, I didn't mean to get too far deep into that, but what I want to do is I wanted to just kind of go through really quick, and I wanted to have everybody just introduce themselves and just say your name and where you're from and what made you join tonight's Diva discussion. So Dieta, since you're on and you're unmuted, you can go ahead and go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited for being a part of this community or this event tonight. My name is D.I.V.A. I am a breast cancer survivor. I am a single woman in her 50s, and I just, I was interested in joining this tonight because I'm not really ready today, but I want to do the work of healing and getting prepared today, if that makes sense. I feel like I've been divorced for 3 years, going on 4 actually. I was married twice, and I just really learned that I need to find out what caused those things to happen as far as the breakdown in my relationships. And I want what God has for me in this next season whenever that happens. And so I was just interested to kind of start having those conversations about that. And just see what other women are talking about at this time, because I kind of went to a place where I just didn't even want to talk about dating. I didn't even want to talk about it at all.
Right.
But now I want to at least do the work. so that I can get to that place where if God desires me to connect with someone, then I want to be ready.
Right.
So,
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you on. So, Miss Ann, are you able to talk now? Can you go next? You are muted. You're still muted. Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Antoinette, and I am from Michigan, Coloma, Michigan. And so the reason that I wanted to join in is because I thought that this would be a really, really awesome conversation to tune into. Although I am third time married, I believe the third time's a charm. And so, of course, we all can grow and learn from other women, regardless to whether you're married, whether you've been married a year, 3 years, 5 years. This is we're celebrating our 6th year. Our anniversary is actually Saturday, but or Sunday, but we're celebrating today, the rest of this week. So,
Happy early
um,
anniversary.
and thank
And
you. And so, yeah, it's awesome. So, yeah, that's why I'm here. Hoping I can support you, ladies.
all right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Miss Ann. Glad to have you on.
Thank
All
you.
right, so Crystal or Monica, one of you are able to at least unmute yourself, put a 2 in the chat. Whoever can mute themselves and go next, because I need y'all to introduce yourselves so we can. So, all right, Monica. Thank you.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing, Monica?
I'm good, Chadney. How are you?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody where you're from and what made you join tonight's Diva discussions.
Okay, I'm Monica Jones. I live in Kinston, North Carolina, and I'm just up here just to support Chadney
Well,
and
thank
just to
you.
learn. Yeah, you welcome. Just to just receive whatever information that you have, because I'm all about learning and growing. And right now I'm not thinking about dating right now, but I feel like eventually I will. I'm kind of like on the fence with trying to date right now. I'm kind of like, and then I'm kind of like, but I want somebody, but it's like, I don't
Right.
know.
Trust me. I
So,
definitely can understand that. So
yeah.
yeah, I've been there. Well, thank you so much, Monica. We're glad to have you on. All right, Crystal, are you able to take yourself off of mute? Okay, should be wrapping up in a few. Okay, so we'll come back to you, Crystal, so you can introduce yourself, because we definitely want to see your face. We want to be able to know who you are. Like I was telling everybody before, this is going to be a very interactive and engaging discussion. So in order to get the most out of it, definitely be engaging. Ask questions, give your feedback, all of that, because that's going to help you to get the most out of the discussion and also, make it the most fun, because, this is a discussion, but I want everybody to be able to have fun. Okay. So this is, relax. This is not a master class. This is not a workshop, none of that. It's just us coming together, being able to discuss this topic and kind of go over a lot of key important things. So I was going to kind of do a little quick survey where most of you have, already answered that, as far as, how many of you are single but in a relationship, or single dating, not in a serious relationship, how many maybe engaged, or if you're married. So for the most part, I see that most of you are single, not dating or thinking about dating at this moment, except for Mrs. Ann, who is married. So again, thank you, Mrs. Ann, for joining on. We know you are married. I did open it up to both single and married women because I wanted, to be able to get the, insight and wisdom and feedback from, the married woman as well. So thank you, Ms. Ann, because we definitely need, your insight and input as well. So again, our topic for tonight is dating as a diva, ditch the drama, and level up your discernment. So let me tell y'all how I came up with that title and what made me to have Diva discussions about this. So recently I was talking to Mrs. Ann, okay, for those of you, most of y'all do not know, Mrs. Ann, she is my AP, my accountability partner, right? So I was talking with her recently, you know, and she, I was just sharing some things with her because right now I'll go ahead and I'll be honest with you all, I'm currently, I I am in a season of dating and getting to know someone, right? So I was talking with Miss Ann about some things, and and she actually, you know, said, well, this would be, you know, a great title, a great topic for deep discussion. So I have to give some kudos to Miss Ann because it was partially her idea. I was like, you know what, you're right. This would be a great topic because I was sharing some things with her and some of my frustrations and just, you know, different thoughts or whatever that I was dealing with and going through in my own mind about things. And she was like, yeah, that would be a good topic. So that's what led me to talk about Diva discussions tonight. So let's talk about the first part, dating as a diva, okay? And so, like I had said before, if any of you saw the video that I did on Facebook, and I was talking about as far as, you know, what I mean when I say diva or grown and sanctified diva. Hold on, I'm sorry, people are still joining in. Okay, so when I was talking about as far as what is a grown and sanctified diva and a grown and sanctified, when I say a diva, you know, it's an acronym, and it means determined, inspired, victorious, and virtuous, as well as anointed. So dating as a diva, as far as not according to the world standards, but according to our definition and what a grown and sanctified diva is. All right. So the first point I want to make is that we set the tone, we hold the power when it comes to dating. What I have what I have found over the course of the years that I have dated and just, you know, things I have experienced, and it is really, you know, it's been proven that whatever you allow is pretty much it's going to set the tone for the relationship or for even before you even get to that point when you're in the beginning part and you're just in that dating phase. Okay, you have to remember that you set the tone and you hold the power when it comes to dating. Okay, so whatever you kind of might let slide or not address in the beginning, that person is going to think that, you know, it's okay. And if you try to backtrack and be like, well, no, I don't like that, or no, this in it, but you already allowed it in the beginning, it's gonna be kind of hard for that person to receive that or to want to, you know, make that correction because it's like, you know, in their mind, it's like, well, you already allowed this or you know, you let it slide before. So you have to keep that in mind. You also have to know and remember to make your standards clear and known up front. Okay, make your standards clear and known up front. Now, I was gonna say this for towards the end of the discussion, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up now, and I'm gonna ask you all for some, you know, for your feedback. So, what do you think, or do you think that it's ever too early to tell someone that you're dating that you are abstaining or that you are, you know, practice being, you know, sexually pure until marriage? So for those of you, if you are on that journey, if that's you, or if you have encountered it, if you have not encountered it before, whatever the case may be, I want your feedback and just, you know, just tell me, you know, as far as, you know, and your own opinion, because this is an open discussion. Do you ever think that it's ever too early to tell someone that you are abstaining from having sex? So anybody who wants to go for, okay, Monica, I knew you was gonna jump on this, so go ahead. Go ahead.
I think you should tell them from jump, because if you don't, that gives you the opportunity, that gives you the opportunity and them the option of whether or not they want to proceed with you, because a lot of people are like in their heads are like sex is mandatory for them. And so if you're like, look, I'm abstaining and that's just how it is, then if they don't want to do that, then hey, they can go. You see where they are, and you won't be like, well, start developing feelings like I really like this person, and then months down the line you're like, oh well, I'm asking it, and they're like, oh, I didn't think you were asking it, I don't know about
Okay.
this. So I think you should
All
tell them
right.
from the beginning.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give my thoughts after everybody else goes. So Miss Ann, I think I saw your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say I concur with Monica. Like, I think that that's something that should be, it should definitely be expressed up front, for not only yourself, but for the other person too. Because like Monica said, like some people are just like, they feel like Christian or not, I'm an adult, I'm gonna have sex, I don't wanna wait. There's nothing wrong with it. People can pull several scriptures out of the Bible to back up their thoughts about that, And so to each his own, but I think that it's definitely something that should be talked about up front. I think that if you're not upfront in the beginning, it opens the door for so many deceptions to take place further on down the road. So you definitely need to be honest with where you are in the beginning, if there's an expectation that you want that person to be honest with you.
Right. Okay. Definitely. I agree with that. I do agree with that. So what it did anybody else want to share or have any feedback before I share mine? Yeah,
I'm interested. I really, I've never really dated saved, so I don't even know how that is to be handled, to be honest. I'm at a point in my life where I almost want to have some type of a pre-process and have a question. Let's get these questions out the way before we even date. I don't even want to waste time
right.
with that. What page are you on? Because if you're on a different page, then let's not even waste time. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't know.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. That is a great point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my so for the most part, yes, I do agree. Well, I'm gonna say yes, I do agree with what everybody said as far as you want to let the person know, up front. You shouldn't wait, 2 or 3 or 6 months down the line to tell them, well, by the way, you know, I'm abstaining, you ain't about to, won't be none of that going down. You ain't about to get none of that. And in their minds, that may be a requirement for them, something that they require when they're in a relationship with somebody, like Mrs. Ann said or not, whether they are Christian or not. And yes, we all know, I gotta take it, back to the scripture because that's just in me. And, anyway, we know it says in the word that, we're not supposed to have sex before marriage. And, I can be the first to admit, yes, I have a child to prove it. Okay. So we all have, fell short of God's glory. We all have missed the mark. But at the same time, since then, and when I rededicated and I decided that I was going to get back on that journey of abstaining, when I rededicated my life back when I was in my early 20s, and I'm pushing 40 now. I'll just say that I'm not as young as I look. Okay, for those of you who are curious. So I'm pushing 40, and I will admit and say, yes, even since then, I have fallen off. Okay. So I think that's one thing that we have to learn to extend grace to ourselves. That's something that's been very hard for me, extending grace to myself. Like I can extend grace to other people a lot quicker. But when it comes to me, like I want to beat myself down into the ground. Like, self-condemnation was like a really big issue for me whenever I messed up, especially in the area of sexual matters and, all of that. So, but yes, I agree that you shouldn't wait too long to tell somebody that you are dating and that you're interested in, that if that's something that you're currently doing and practicing, you don't want to wait 6 months down the road. But on the flip side, now I don't agree that you should tell them on the first date either. I don't think that that's something that, the first day you like, okay, yeah, by the way, I'm abstaining, you ain't getting none of that over here. These legs is closed, they closed for business until we walk down the alley. Like, that's just, I feel like that's too much for a first date. Would everybody else agree with that or no? Like, I don't think it's a first date topic, but it definitely should be brought up sooner than later. Do y'all agree? Disagree?
I see where
So-
you're coming from. I'm sorry. Because that's just like in the world when they talk about you shouldn't bring up marriage on the
Right,
first
like you
date.
wouldn't bring up marriage
So-
on the first date. So I don't think you should not even be talking about sex on the first date, because this is the first date. You're just supposed you are getting to know them. Okay. So the key thing we have to remember, okay, dating is about gathering data. I think that's where that word comes from, I believe. But yeah, dating is about gathering data. So you're gathering data about this person to try to get to know them, to see, if you have common interests, common goals. Like you said, if you're on the same path, going in the same direction. Because if you're not going in the same direction, there's no point for y'all to even really be dating. Or, so like you said, because that would be wasting each other's time. So let me tell you all this. So, real life, scenario. So I was dating someone before, and I told them sooner than later, not on the first date, of course, but I did tell them, pretty much up front that, I was abstaining, all that good stuff. And this person, well, they told me, but when I told them, they respected it and all of that, and they understood, like, and they were not living that lifestyle abstinence. So I'm gonna just put a pin in that real quick. Key note: if the other person is not on that same path of abstinence as you, it is not going to work. Like, write that down, put it in your back pocket, all that good stuff. Okay, it is not going to work. I don't care how much they respect it, understand it, or they may try to understand it, because honestly, if they're not on that same path and journey as you, they're not going to be able to fully understand that as far as you abstaining and not having sex, especially in their minds, and they're like, I really like you, you like me, I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me, I'm feeling you, you feeling me. So what's the problem? What's the issue? So I could say from firsthand experience, if they are not on that same path of abstaining, then it's not going to work. Don't even set yourself up for that trap or for the disappointment, because you'll end up getting all attached to this person. You really start liking them, and then they may say in the beginning, or they may, verbally express, yes, I understand. Okay, I respect that, but it's gonna just be extremely hard for both of you. Okay, and it's just gonna create a lot of friction and conflict, because they're trying to do something that you're not trying to do. And in order to really live and walk out the path and journey of abstaining from sex until marriage, that other person has to be on that same path. They have to be on that same journey with you. Because if not, they're gonna, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, they're gonna always be trying to pull you towards their way. And you're gonna be trying to pull them towards your way. And it's gonna be a tug of war constantly. And so it's just a setup for failure. So do not, if that's the journey that you're on, and you really truly are trying to abstain and maintain sexual purity until marriage, then you have to be dating someone that has that same mindset and that same commitment, because that's what it is. It's a commitment, and it is a mind thing. But dating someone or being involved with somebody that's not on that same mindset or mentality, they're just going to eventually, pull you down. I mean, it is what it is. We like to tell ourselves, no, I can be strong enough, but no, you can't. I can pull them over my way. No, you can't. They're going to pull you more over their way, especially if you really like them, especially if you're attracted to them. Because at the end of the day, it don't matter how saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit you are, and I am, and how much you love God and all of that. We are human. We live in this flesh body, and we know this flesh can get out of control. If we don't, we have to constantly, that's why we have to constantly feed our spirit and starve our flesh more, because if not, your flesh will be dominating you all the time. Okay, let me tell you, I will be doing a lot more stuff that I ain't supposed to be doing if I didn't do the things that I know I need to do to keep my flesh under control. Because we know how this flesh can be. And if you're dealing with somebody of the opposite sex that you are attracted to and you really, really like them too, it's only going to be a matter of time. If that person is not as mature as you spiritually and on that same mindset that, okay, I'm committed to being abstinent and so are you, and I don't care how much we may want to engage in sexual activity, we're not. Like you will both have boundaries in place, and you will help each other to be able to enforce those boundaries, because there's going to be times where you may be weak, but another person is maybe able to be strong, or vice versa. They may be weak, have a weak moment, and you're going to have to be strong. But that can't happen if the other person is on a totally different mindset, and they're like, if the mood is right and I want to do it, we should be able to do it. No if it, like you should, like she was saying, we're both adults, why not? And that's how most people, we be honest, most people, most even Christian adults think today. If I like you, you like me, and the opportunity is there and the mood is right, why not? Why not? We both adults. Like, I'm telling you, I done had everything thrown at me to try and justify why I should go ahead and be sexually intimate with a person. Oh, well, I ain't going nowhere. I don't know that. We gonna get married anyway, and I mean, we not married right now. I ain't even seen no ring. I ain't even got a promise ring or nothing, none of that. And you talking about you ain't going nowhere, or you want to be with me. Yeah, you know what you want right now. That's what that is. You know what you want right now. So you have to be able to decipher and discern through all of that. But yeah, so I don't want to digress too much. So anybody have any feedback about that before we move on?
I do.
Okay, Monica, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
As far as with dating, I think it depends on how long you've known that person you're dating, because some people have known people for years and they start being interested in each other and they begin to date, versus somebody that you might have met on an app or something like that. So it's to the discretion of that person. In some cases, it might be good to, if you've known them for a while and y'all start becoming interested and say, well, hey, I'm abstinent.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think, yeah, so going back to this, so I was saying, yeah, so this person, they pretty much, they told me that because I told them, or that I shouldn't have told them too early on about me practicing abstinence, because it put too much pressure on that. Yeah, I think that's just a bunch of BS, pretty much. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
I don't know.
I mean, wait. I mean, okay. Let's be honest. Like, what do y'all really think? If somebody told you, well, you shouldn't tell you shouldn't tell anybody that too early on, because it puts too much pressure on them. Like, what would be
I
your
don't even
response to that?
understand that. I don't understand that.
You and me both. That's definitely
That's some games.
like, yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I felt. I was like, in my mind, I'm like, put too much pressure on you. Like, first of all, are you not a grown adult? Like, are you not a grown?
Maybe they mean that it makes them feel like your standards are so high and they can't meet your
I guess, well, you
they
know
can't
what?
meet
Look,
your standards.
like
But
I
if you
said,
put
I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 in this discussion. Okay, we on Zoom, we is not on Facebook. So, you know, but when I heard that, I'm like, okay, well then you just not the one for me.
mm-mm,
Because I feel like if you tell anybody that and they're gonna be like, and they say something like, that's putting too much pressure on me. Like, first of all, it ain't gotta be no pressure, period, because you can go about your life and about your way. I can go about mine, and I will wish you well, blessings and peace, and we can keep it moving.
yeah.
So,
That's where I'm at. I'm a talker, so if anybody needs to talk, jump in because I can talk. But
right, I
just
can too. So, but yeah,
that's
you
just
fine. Go
where
ahead.
I am. I don't have time to play around. Like I just don't have time
Right,
because
and
I
also,
know that
I'm sorry, Dieta, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to go
that's
ahead and say this while it was on my mind. I know I forget stuff real quick. So I remember what earlier when we were talking about this, and you were saying, as far as, you know, you're at the point where, as far as with dating, like before you even get to that point of dating someone, you kind of just want to go through, I forgot what you called it, like a
a
pre-questionnaire, kind of like
prequel.
a pre.
I'm serious about that for real. Like I really am
Look,
serious.
I was gonna say, I don't blame you for that, because this is what I was also gonna talk about tonight. So with dating as a diva, if you're gonna be out here and you're gonna be dating as a diva, grown and sanctified diva, one thing that I do when I first meet somebody, and before like even going on an official date with them, is I have what's called a meet and greet. Well, I call it a meet and greet. You want to call it that. But basically, it's not a formal date. What you can do is just pick, like, you know, it could be a coffee place, Starbucks, a fast food place, whatever, just somewhere where you're able to sit down in public, maybe for about, you know, 20, 30 minutes, you know, 45 minutes, if that. It's just for you to just have a little quick meeting with them and just kind of get a feel for them, ask some, you know, basic standard questions. Like, it's not an actual formal date. And I feel like if you do a meet and greet with somebody first before actually going out on a date, because like I said, it's a meet and greet because, excuse me, it's just about meeting with them really quick. Like, that's why I say, like, you know, coffee, fast food or something, like, because you usually can have, like, you know, coffee or a drink and a little snack and like in a short amount of time. It's not like you're going out to dinner or going out to lunch. But something like that, it could be just, you know, meeting them at a bookstore, I don't care, you know, wherever. But just have like a little quick meet and greet with them and kind of see if there's really any connection, any chemistry, ask the, you know, basic standard questions and kind of get a feel for them. And then after, I'm telling you that after you have that meet and greet with them, then you'll be able to determine after that point, okay, is this even somebody that I want to even go on a date with or date? Because I promise you, you will know. And I definitely suggest that, like, if you're meeting somebody, especially if it's, you know, kind of blind, like maybe, you know, somebody you know, gave your name and information to this person, like a mutual friend, or, you know, because we are living in 2021, let's say if you did meet them through social media or online through a, you know, a dating app or whatever. Because I tell you, I've been on it all. I've been in them all. Okay, so I have, some experiences and and stories, but especially if it's somebody that you don't already know previously. If you're meeting them for the first time, as far as your first time meeting face to face, I would definitely, of course, suggest that for me, I have to talk to a person on the phone, engage in conversation with them, at least maybe for a week or two. Usually I'll know after the first two conversations whether or not I even want to talk to them, but I do not suggest going out on a date with somebody like without having not had any type of phone conversation. At least a couple. Like engage, just talk over the phone, and then you can arrange to like have a meet and greet, and then from there you'll be able to determine whether or not this person is even worthy of your time to go on a date. And I hate to put it like that, but it kind of is what it is, because like you were saying, your time is, our time is valuable, our time is precious. So it's no, especially at this age we are now, not saying anybody is really old on here, but we ain't no teenagers. What I'm saying, we're not in our
Right.
like we all got busy lives. Most of us got families, or we might have children, you may have businesses, you got work, you got a whole lot of other responsibilities and demands pulling at your time. So you don't have time to be wasting with anybody that's not really worth your time, especially when it comes to dating. Because I don't know about any of you, but I think it would be safe to assume that you're not trying to date just, you won't be trying to date just because you don't have nothing else to do, or just for fun, or just for a hobby. Like, nobody got time for that. But you also have to keep in mind that there are a lot of people out here that really are dating just for fun. Like, they are casually dating and they're okay with that. They're dating with no purpose, no intention. They're dating to have something to do, to go out. And these are people in their late 30s and 40s. I know, right? Can you believe it? Might even be older, 50s, whatever. Like, they're out here dating, and it literally is a game to them. It's a game. It's like a sport. It's for fun. So you have to realize and understand, and not be naive to the fact that you got all kind of fish out here in the pond. I don't care if it's the saved or the unsaved, church or the unchurched. Like, you even gotta watch out for the brothers in the church. And I know we all know that, but don't ever, you shouldn't just let your guard totally down, even if you meet somebody in the church. Because we know everybody that's in the church is not of the church. And you gotta remember, some men, they go to church just for that purpose only, just to look for women to possibly date or talk to. So you cannot be fooled by, even if you see them in church every Sunday and they got their Bible and all that. That's all fine and dandy. But that doesn't mean that it may not still be a wolf in sheep's clothing. You can't be so quick to let your guard down just because you may meet somebody and they may come across or appear to be, a certain way, or a man of God. Let's say I don't look at just, the outer. I'm looking at the fruit. I'm looking at, your fruit, your lifestyle. Because if you say you a man of God, then there needs to be some fruit, some evidence of that. And that's another thing. There are a lot of God-fearing men, but men of God and God-fearing man is two different things. Who knows what the difference is between a God-fearing man and a man of God? Anybody want to chime in on that or give their opinion? Because
I
some
think
people
a
think it's the
God-fearing
same
man is
thing, but
going
it's not.
to a
I'm sorry.
God-fearing man is going to actually honor the word of God versus a man of God just simply being somebody who believes. Huge difference. Huge difference.
Okay. Anybody else? Want to chime in? So
And
I
Chaddy, if you
consider,
don't mind,
oh,
I
I'm
want
sorry, go
to,
ahead.
I really want to go back and just kind of piggyback off of something Deanna said earlier when she was saying she's never dated outside of being a Christian, I think was the comment that she made. And I can totally relate to that because my first, well, no, both of my marriages actually, I was in the church and um, I thought that I knew what it was that I wanted, what it was that I needed. And so, of course, now looking back, it's like there's levels to this thing. God prepares us for those things that we need. And sometimes God will give us what we need to let us know, baby, that's not what I had for you. But more importantly, and just in listening to you talking about being aware, being alert, being conscientious of that person that comes in to distract. Well, Chaddy, you know the story of how my husband and I ended up getting married because I had no plans whatsoever getting married again. And I was actually in the middle of a divorce when I met him playing a game online, had no intentions, like, and my husband, bless his heart, he never he never gave me the inclination that he liked me, that he wanted to date me, nothing of that nature whatsoever. He was strictly a friend. He was strictly, we we never had any conversation whatsoever about anything. I was always talking about, oh my God, I'll be glad when this divorce is final. I'm leaving here. I'm moving to North Carolina. Literally, I still have stuff packed up in my basement right now from when I first started packing. Because when I divorced my second husband, I was leaving Michigan. And so I went to go visit to attend an award ceremony. Because, by this time we had got to know each other, so on and so forth. And went to go and visit and attend an award ceremony, and he proposed to me. And I'm like, totally, absolutely shocked. Like, I called my daughter. I was like, this man is crazy. He don't even know me. And he just asked me to marry him. Like, I had absolutely no clue, none whatsoever. So
Right.
I just wanted to say, I said all of that to say, when you're in the perfect will of God and when you are strategically lined up with his plan and his purpose, and you stop focusing on you finding that person, because there's nothing wrong with the dating part, but the Bible says he that finds a wife finds a good thing. So you don't have to, as long as you let your petition be known to God, you don't have to tell that man anything. You don't have to say anything. So, but again, it's one of those things where it's just being honest in the very beginning. Again, my now husband, even though we weren't talking along those lines of being in a relationship, he didn't let it be known that he was looking for a wife or anything like that. I definitely wasn't looking for a husband, because when my divorce was final, I had sworn off men. I wasn't going to become a lesbian, but I had totally sworn off men.
Right. Can't
I
have
was
that.
done. I was totally done. I didn't want to be in another relationship. Like, I didn't want to get to know nobody, none of that. And so, but it was one of those things where he was looking for a mate. And so he never said anything to me about being in a relationship. He never said anything to me about dating. He was just very respectful, very kind. Again, we talked about everyday life, literally. We talked about our jobs, we talked about our children. That's it. That's it. And so, um, it was one of those things where I was always talking about when I left, when I divorced, I was going to move to North Carolina. I didn't want to be in a relationship. And he never said, oh, you shouldn't think that way. Nothing whatsoever. It's like, yeah, I understand, that was it, never tried to make me see it any way different or think it anything different. Absolutely none of that. I always say he tricked me. That's what he did. He tricked me. And so, but I have to say, out of being married 3 times in my previous marriages, being married for an overall total, I have been married in the past 20 plus years of my life. I have been married for 20 years, 3 times, a total of 20 years. So I've been married longer than I've been single. So for me, it was when I say it's better to let a person know upfront what your expectations are, it's because of my own personal experience. Like,
Right.
I'm very outspoken, you know, I'm not gonna let you think anything different. And like I said, he wasn't even talking along those lines, but I wanted it to be clearly understood. Don't even try to come up pushing up on me because ain't gonna be nothing, bruh, because I don't want to be in no relationship. We ain't finna do
Right.
that. We ain't finna keep talking like that. Like, I was very clear, you know,
Right.
but it was one of those situations where, because that's who God had planned for me, that didn't deter him. You know, he didn't pursue, he didn't persist, he didn't do any of that. He was very respectful. And like I said, I went to go and visit, and he proposed to me, and you talk about shocked. I was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, that would be a shocker. That would be a shocker for me. So, but yeah, I definitely understand
I was
where you're
shocked.
coming from and what you're saying. So that's definitely, 100% correct. You definitely, we shouldn't be out here trying to seek or to find any man, because as it says in the word, it's he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And so I do believe that yes, we do need to position ourselves, and in the meantime also be preparing ourselves. But
Yeah.
this is basically is at the point where, okay, let's say, you do, happen to come across somebody, or that man finds you, and there is a mutual interest. And now you're at
Mhm.
that point of being ready to date and engage in that phase of dating and gathering data. So this is about, dating the right way, the kingdom way, as you're going through that process, and still uh maintaining that standard, not compromising your salvation, with still being able to enjoy the process as well, but being able to recognize, the foolishness and not get caught up in any drama, and that goes to and leads to talking about your discernment and making sure
Mhm.
that, your discernment level is up. So I'm going to get into that, as I don't want to be on here too late tonight. But another point I wanted to make is you always want to go with your gut. Okay. Go with your gut instinct, or that they call women's intuition, or AKA you're in a Holy Ghost. Okay. If you say and you feel with the Holy Spirit, then the Holy Ghost is gonna let you know if something is off about somebody. Okay, he really is, and so we cannot ignore that inner feeling, or that intuition, or when when he begins to speak us, because he will let you know. And a lot of times we may want to silence him because, ooh, I'm this person looking real good. I'm really liking them. And he may be trying to tell you something about them that, let's be honest, you may not be trying to hear it, just because you all in your feelings of how they make you feel or how they look on the outside. But God, the Holy Spirit, they can see what's going on beyond that outside, beyond that outer appearance, you know, beyond what they are presenting to you. Okay, so you always want to go with that and don't ignore your inner Holy Spirit. All right, y'all bear me one moment. I'm gonna be right back. Let me put my other light on, okay?
Mhm.
One moment. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, so I want to share a quick story with y'all, because I told y'all that I was going to share some of my own personal experiences. So let me hold true to that. So, so and I think that, okay, so I told y'all I have a daughter, she's 12 years old. And when I first met my daughter's father, like, okay, he was so sweet, so nice. Like, I mean, did so much for me, went out of his way to do things for me. I'm talking about car broke down, would go and take it up and up at the place, bring it back to me, was always taking me out on dinners. We always spent so much time together. When I was with him, and he made me feel like nobody else mattered. All right. And plus, on top of that, you know, he was my type. You know, he was light skinned, kind of tall, little build, you know, had a sense of style. You know, he was he was both street smart, and he had both street smart and book smart. So he was, you know, he was exactly, you know, how I like him and what I liked. And it's crazy because when I started dating him, and I mean, there was every kind of I'm telling you, there was every kind of red flag popping up in the course of that relationship. And it was a very, very short relationship, but I still chose to ignore it because I got caught up in, you know, all the attention that he was giving me, because I'm a person, like, I'm really big on quality time, and I'm really big on getting on on receiving a person's on receiving their attention when I'm dating someone. So, and that's another thing, you have to be careful, because see, the enemy knows what you like too. And he was doing everything, saying all the right things, giving me all the time and attention that I needed, because that is something that's that's very big with me and important, is that I have a person's time and attention. So he was giving me a lot of his time and attention. So I got caught up in all of that, right? And so it's so weird. It's so funny because, like, nobody around me, like nobody liked him. Not nobody. And it was like everybody around me could tell and could see that, okay, you need to leave him alone. Like, you know, he ain't right. Like, nah, like all of that stuff. And I was just like totally not seeing it. And I was just like, oh no, you know, I was just really in my own little bubble, my own little world with him. And I was just seeing what I wanted to see. And because, you know, he was telling me one thing, but other people on the outside looking in, they could see it. And it was like, but I was still blind to it. And it was like, I guess at that time, and I wasn't nowhere near, you know, where I am now, you know, spiritually, of course. But at that time, like, I was saved, of course, and I was going to church faithfully, like every Sunday. And but I had this other person in my ear, you know, talking and, you know, telling me things and saying what I want to hear. But I also, you know, I know, right? And I'm hearing the word of God, and I know, you know, certain things, you know, wasn't right or kind of off. But like I said, it's like the flesh wants what it wants. And when somebody is giving you what you want, you know, it's kind of hard to break away from that. So lo and behold, yes. So I got involved with him. You know, it was a very short relationship, like pretty much maybe 2 months, if that. And I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. You know, and I hadn't known him that long. So imagine like all of the guilt and condemnation that came with that, you know. And I'm the girl that, yes, I'm faithfully going to church. I'm like, yeah, all about Jesus, all that good stuff. And so when that came out, you know, I'm feeling like, you know, I just feel horrible. I feel like lower than the lowest. I feel like, you know, my witness is going to be totally ruined. You know, God is so mad with me, or he's not going to be able to use me. I mean, I went through all of that. And then you add on the, you know, condemnation from other people, their disappointment, you know, family's disappointment, all of that. But I can sit here today and let you know that even through all of that, I was able to bounce back from that. Okay. And so one thing I learned through that, well, number one, if nobody else around you, I'm talking about no family, no friends, nobody whatsoever likes the person that you're dating or talking to, or in a relationship with, then that is a really, really, really big, huge red flag that you need to leave them alone. Because if it is one thing, like if it's just one or two people, that's one thing. But if nobody likes them, there's a reason for that. It's not just, oh, they just hating, or they just being overly protective, or whatever you may want to think. It's something that they are seeing about this person, but because you're so caught up with how they look or how they're treating you or whatever, you can't see it, or you may refuse to see it. And so I think at that time I just didn't want to face I didn't want to face the reality of him not being who he was portraying himself to be to me. So that's why I continue on with it. And yes, I did end up being pregnant and had my daughter out of wedlock. But through all of that, it amazes me how God took that whole mess and made it into like one of the biggest blessings of my life. And through all of that, because I went through so much drama with that in the beginning. I don't even have no time, if I stayed on here all night, to tell y'all all of the drama that I've been through with that. But I do know that God definitely took that and flipped it and made it work for my good. And so I learned so many valuable lessons out of that. But one of them is, if nobody around you and you're in a circle and your family or friends, nobody is liking that person, then that's a really, really huge red flag. In 99.9% of the time, that you need to leave that person alone. Don't continue dealing with them, because a lot of times, like I said, when we're in something, we can't always see stuff for what it is. And so that also goes to one of my next points, is that when you make a new connection with somebody, whether it doesn't have to be dating, it could be friendship, business partnership, whatever, you want to not only, of course, go to wise counsel, a close and trusted friend, accountability partner, your spiritual leader, whoever, but you also want to go to God and ask them, okay, like, God, like, who sent this person? Is this from you, or is this from the enemy? Okay. And a lot of times God will be telling us or trying to show us, when certain people come into our life and they really are not God sent. But a lot of times, because we're not in tune with his voice, and our discernment is low. So that's another thing, because my discernment was so low at that time. Like, I wasn't really, I didn't really have a prayer life. Just be totally honest, at that time, it was very minimal. I was going through the motions. I was going to church. I was doing a lot of that stuff, but my own personal prayer life was lacking. And I was listening to too many of the wrong voices. It had too many of the wrong voices in my ear. So my discernment was way off. I wasn't, I didn't fast. I didn't pray like that. I listened, to the word, when I went to church, and that was about it. So when it came to being able to discern, when somebody came into my space, that this is not from God at all. Like, if my discernment was where it is now, then I would have been able to show enough know that he was on assignment, sent straight by the enemy. Because that's really what it was. Because I was focused. I was trying to, better myself. I wasn't even thinking about having a boyfriend, being in a relationship, none of that when he came along. So he was a distraction sent from the pits of hell. And I do mean that. But even though he was on assignment from the enemy, God still turned it around and worked it for my good, because that's just the God that we serve. But anyway, I just wanted to just, go back to my point and say, you know, take it to God when you meet somebody, and when you making new connections, you want to share it with a trusted friend, advisor, accountability partner, leader, but you also want to also take it and present it to God and be like, okay, God, who sent them? Okay, because I don't know about you, any of you all, but I can say like 100%, I don't want to be connected to anybody that's not sent from God. Like if you ain't sent by God, I need you to keep it moving. Pretty much. And I would say most of the time, God, he will let you know, but we have to be in tune with him, and we have to make sure our discernment is up. Okay. So, and I want to talk about discernment for a little bit, and then I'll take y'all if you have any questions, so we can go ahead and get ready to wrap this up soon. But does anybody have any feedback about anything that I just said?
I just want to point out, piggyback off of what you said about about somebody being sent on an assignment from Satan, and just want to my personal perception about that is we have to be mindful that even though the enemy is used, and this is my absolute personal perception about that concept, is that when you are walking with God, when you're truly walking with God, you're not playing with him. The enemy cannot come to you unless God allows him to. When we think about Job, the Bible says that the enemy was walking to and fro the earth, seeking whom he may devour. And God said, have you considered my servant Job? So a person who's already in the world and they are already owned by Satan and in his workings, they are under the father of darkness. Those people, Satan don't have to come to them, they already there. But somebody who's walking with the Lord, somebody who is walking according to the statutes as best as they possibly can, because like you said, you didn't necessarily have a prayer life. And if my memory serves me correctly, you were somewhat a babe in Christ, even though you were, going every Sunday and everything, but you were considered a babe in Christ. And so there were still things that you needed to learn as it related to having that spirit of discernment, so on and so forth. And so, does God allow things to happen in our lives in order to teach us a lesson? I believe that is absolutely true. Like I said, I go back to, I can't say that my first or my second husband was sent to me by Satan. I was married to my first husband for almost 10 years. My second husband, I was married for 12 years. We were going into our 13th year. As a matter of fact, our divorce was finalized just a few days before our 13th year anniversary. And so, but I believe that that was an experience that God had me to go through so that I would be able to understand that when he brings somebody into my life, there's not going to be all of that wishy-washy back and forth, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, so on and so forth. And so but on the same token, there would be no Mrs. Ann, there would be no smack talk, there would be no Diamond by Design had it not been for those experiences. And I'm a firm believer that there would not be a grown and sanctified diva, which we so very need. I keep saying this. This is such an awesome ministry. And I know that God gave you this. You are an amazing woman of God. I look up to you. I love to watch your walk. I was just talking about you last night to Tilia, and I said, we need the Chatney Whites. We need the grown and sanctified divas, because I've shared with you, God knew Antoinette was not going to not do what she was going to do, so he had to give her a husband. Like, God knew that. And so I believe that, my walk is my walk because that's what, God placed me on, but I needed to learn some lessons. And I believe that that experience was so that when you sat down and you began to teach young and older women about how to be a grown and sanctified diva, you would be able to say that because of the walk that you walk, not just because it sounds good. It's not a cute little acronym, but you truly know what it means to be grown and sanctified and be a diva and walk this, not because of what you put on, not because of, you know, your hair, your nails, your makeup, or anything like that, because you are truly a divine, inspired, virtuous, and anointed woman of God. So just wanted to say that.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Ann. I appreciate that. And yeah, and to go back what you said, I mean, I wasn't really a babe in Christ at that time, but I had kind of fallen off from a lot of
Okay,
things.
okay.
Because like I said earlier, I got saved for real when I was around 21. When
Mhm.
I, met my child's father around that time, like I was 25 going on 26. So I had been saved. Like I remember like when I first got saved for real, I mean, I was on fire. Like I was like, you know, I was, pulling out all the stops. I mean, I got rid of all of my secular music and everything. I wasn't playing no games. That's how serious I was. And so it was only, I say, but after I moved back home to Raleigh, and I moved in with my parents for a period of time when I first moved back to Raleigh, and then and I met him after, like, I had just joined the church that I go to now, that I've been going to now for 11 years. I had just started going there, and I had just joined. So I was getting back refocused. And so that's how I was saying that I knew it was a distraction sent by the enemy, because I was focused on getting my spiritual life back on track. I was, had just started back going to church on a regular basis, hearing the word, getting back, in that, and just and getting back to, the fire and the passion that I had, like when I had first rededicated my life to God. So I was getting back there. It was like right when I was on that, path, and I was getting back refocused, that's when, he came along. So that's why I said it was a distraction sent by the enemy, because I was really had a mindset and was focused on so many other things and getting my life, you know, spiritually back to where it was, and focusing on some other things as well. And this person comes out like, I'm telling you, he came like out the blue. Like literally, I was out and about minding my business, and he came out the blue, like drove up to where I was, started a conversation with me, and we exchanged numbers, and the rest was his. So, like I said, that was something that totally just came out the blue and blindsided me and distracted me, because I was focused and I was getting back, you know, on track with everything. But I totally understand where you were coming from and what you were saying. But I do appreciate that. I appreciate that very much, Mrs. Ann. So I want to just go ahead and we're gonna move on so we can wrap up here. And I wanted to talk about discernment really quick. So discernment, basically, I was listening to Pastor Jerry Flowers the other day. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but he gave one of like the most basic definitions of discernment I've ever heard. And basically, it was, discernment is the ability to see past presentation and conversation. Okay, that's pretty much what it is. It's the ability to see past presentation and conversation. And so when it comes to, being out here in these dating streets and your level of discernment, like you really, really got to make sure that your discernment is on point, and that you are constantly working at sharpening it. And the only way to really sharpen and increase your discernment is you have to be spending time with God on a regular basis. You got to be spending time reading his word, yeah, reading his word, studying the word, listening to it, spending time soaking in his presence, spending time in prayer, praying in your prayer language. If you have to be doing all those things. Fasting. Let me tell you, when I was, when I really was on like my fasting A game, along with doing, my prayer and everything on a regular basis, like my discernment was so high. Like I'm telling you, like I was seeing stuff I ain't want to see about people. Okay, like for real. So, I mean, I say all that to say, if you want to increase or level up your discernment, you have to like take your fasting life and your prayer life, your devotional life, all those things have to also increase to a whole nother level. Because if you're doing those things and you're constantly spending time with God and soaking in his presence, then when you encounter or meet someone and their spirit is off, like you're gonna pick up on it like that. I mean, it's gonna irritate and bother you so bad where you're just gonna be like, uh, because it's just because their spirit is gonna rub your spirit the wrong way because it's the it's the God in you that's recognizing that spirit that's not of God in them. So that's why it's so important to have your discernment be on point, especially if you plan on or you're thinking about getting back into the dating scene. 'Cause I'm telling you, a lot of guys out here, their presentation, how they look is on point. Like they looking like the part and everything. Their conversation, like they know how to say the right things and be talking that good game where it's kind of like, you know, they got all the I's dotted, T's crossed. They, all this, they just that best good man of God, the best thing since sliced bread, all that good. I'm telling you, they conversation, it it be on point, the presentation be on point, but a lot of times, like you have to be able to see past that because I'm telling you, a lot of people out here know how to put up a good front, but like they say, a person can only perpetrate in front for a period of time before their true colors are gonna show. But if your discernment is high, you won't even have to let it even get to that point where you like dating them for 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 months, a year, and then you talking about, oh, they all of a sudden changed on me, or they just, they flipped let me tell you, no. When people say that, oh, well, this person, they just started acting like, I promise you there was some red flags at the beginning. I promise you there was something. 9 times out of 10, that person didn't just flip on you out of nowhere like that. There was something. And even if they were putting up a front or perpetrating about who they really are, if your discernment is up, is high where it should be, you'll be able to see right through a lot of that stuff anyway. So you got to make sure that you are constantly working on your level of discernment at all times, because I'm telling you, people out, their talk game is getting better and better out here. If your discernment is not on point, you won't be able to hear past what they're saying or look past how they may be looking to you, because they could be looking pleasing to the eye, dressed right from head to toe, all that good stuff, and they could be just jacked up on the inside, jacked up personality, mean, whatever, all that good stuff. But because that presentation and that conversation, is on point, a lot of times it could be easy not to see past that and to get caught up in all of that. So you got to make sure that your discernment is on point. Now, I had a few questions, other things, top questions that I was going to bring it in. Anybody have any other questions or feedback at this time?
The only thing I wanted to say, I could say a lot because you really opened up a lot with this topic of discernment. But one thing that I have done, and I didn't even realize this was a thing, but I used it when I was married to my second husband, is to pray for the person, and it will expose the condition of their heart. So whenever, for instance, I have 2 daughters and my youngest daughter is single, and I asked her when she started dating someone, I said, I don't know them, I haven't met them, whatever, but do me a favor, pray for that person for 30 days and then see. Because the way I stumbled onto that is that when I was married to my second husband, I got this book, and I was just innocently getting this book. This lady on my Instagram, I think she wrote a book about praying for your husband, and she had prayers in there. So I ordered the book. I began to pray those prayers on for my husband. When I tell you, the behaviors that came out of that man that never showed up. We have been married for years, we had only been married a couple of years, but we were together. We had been together for a long time. And he started to he manifested basically. I know y'all saved here. He was manifesting, things were manifesting when I began to pray for him. And I had never done that because we weren't saved. I wasn't living a saved life with him. But when I began to pray for him, just pray blessings on the person, the spirits, his attitude, his actions, his true condition of his heart began to show. He could not mask it anymore. So I have used that. I'm not married anymore, but now I use that in any connection that I'm in. I recently used it with, I've been shopping for a house. I recently used it with the realtor I had. The first realtor I had, when you said how your spirit will not be comfortable,
Right.
when I tell you I was bent over, my stomach was hurting at a point we were supposed to meet, and my stomach was hurting at this one meeting. God wanted me to get rid of her. And it's just because there were some things going on. It's condition of her heart. She wasn't honest. She wasn't saying the things that, she wasn't keeping her word. So that is a very powerful tool as far as our discernment goes. But the key to that is that we are in alignment and we are right. Because when we are not right, I've used this prayer thing before and my life wasn't right. But the enemy can hear our prayers too. So if we are not positioned and postured with God when we're praying, it can turn out bad if we're not in the right alignment. So that's just a thing that I'm gonna use that. That's just like my go-to now, is to pray for that person, but make sure that my heart is right as well, so that I'm not being misled, because the enemy can hear what we're praying as well. And just like you said, he knows our taste, he knows our cycles. What's that song?
Right.
He knows our cycles. And
he
so
knows that he knows exactly what we like,
yes.
He'll bring or send that very the exact the same thing of what you like. So yeah, like you said, just like you praying to God and you're asking him for certain things, that's why it is important to pray your prayer language as well, because the enemy, he can't decipher that. That's a direct line of communication between you and God, between you and the Father. So it's important to continue to always and to pray your prayer language as much as possible. But that's a definitely good point. Thank you for sharing that. Because like you said, he will show you. If you ask, like, that's one thing I've learned. You got to be careful about what you go to God and ask and pray for. If you ask him to show you who's for you and who's not, he will show you. If you ask him to show you, or to reveal to you a person's heart, he will. So whatever you go to God in prayer and you asking him to show and reveal to you, you better be prepared and ready to handle that.
Yeah.
Because it
And
may
I
not
didn't
be
even
what you
ask.
think.
I didn't even ask though. All I was doing was praying blessings on the person, because
Right.
it's just pray blessing on them. And when you do, either they're going to show you their good part, they're going to show you that they are a good person, or they're going to start acting out, because the enemy, those spirits can't hide. When
They
you're
can't.
praying, they can't hide in that environment. So it's just a simple thing to just pray for them. And that is a go-to for me now. It's a go-to.
It
I didn't even
is.
know that was a thing. And somebody else was telling me a story that they did the same thing. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's what that is. It's just a thing for us to do. It's just to pray.
Right. All right. So did anybody else have any particular questions when it comes to, dating, meeting someone, you know, how soon is too soon for certain things? Like, I had a list, but I know, we kind of are over our time. I want to respect you all's time tonight, so I don't want to hold you too much longer. If there's any pressing question that you have about anything we talked about, or when it pertains to dating or anything, You can go ahead and ask your questions if anybody had anything. Okay, I'm going to bring up one really quick. So how soon do you think is too soon for a person to come to your home, or for you to start visiting each other at each other's homes? Let's talk about that. So we're not talking about like, okay, you just like you went out on like, you know, 1 or 2 dates. Like, you know, we're saying, okay, so when would you consider it to be too soon to bring somebody that you're dating, you're interested in, over to your home? Like, because we know that's a very, you know, once you allow somebody to know where you live, like, you got to understand, like, first of all, that is privileged information, and you have to be very careful and selective about, you know, who you allow to know where you live. It's one thing to just exchange, because a phone number is just a number. And if somebody, you know, want to act crazy, they got your number, all you got to do is block them. And yes, you got crazy people out here that will call you from other numbers. Ask me how I know, because it's happened to me. I have had to block people, and they're calling me from different phone numbers still, all kind of. So yeah, so when it comes to allowing somebody to come into your home, you definitely have to really, really use discernment about that, because that's letting somebody like into an even more intimate space, and letting them have access to privileged information. And if gotten into the wrong hands, they could really, you know, abuse that privilege. So you have to be careful. But would anybody like to, you know, chime in and give their, you know, just give your feedback, your opinion, as far as how soon do you think is too soon for somebody that you're dating or interested in to come to your home or go to their home? Or do you think it's never too soon? Like, so what are your thoughts on that? Anybody? I know we did have yeah, Miss Ann had to go, and yeah, someone else had to leave as well. But for those of you who are still here, nobody? Dieta, you don't have any opinion?
I do. I was trying to give somebody else a chance.
Right, I think they might be tired of. All right, okay, so you go ahead and answer that real quick, and then we gonna end this.
Okay. Well, I definitely think that there is a time frame. I mean, there's a time that would be too soon. I don't really know what that timing is.
Or maybe I should ask, well, maybe is there not really, is there not a specific time frame, or is it more of just an inner knowing, and once you get to a certain level of comfortability with that person, do you think that would be safe to say? Like, it's
Yeah,
not really a time frame, but it's more about when you get to a certain level of comfort and allowing them to come to your home.
yeah. I think at this point, it would have to be a process of time. And this is really helpful. I just want to let you know this is really just making my mind just go crazy, because I'm like, oh man, I know exactly how I want to set this up, man.
Right.
When
Well,
I
I'm
get
glad it was helpful.
dating, because I think that there would be a process, several days probably before someone would come to my home, before someone would learn about my family and just different things like that, because there are some crazy people out here. And I don't want to have to go through the process of, oh my gosh, this man knows where I live and da da da.
Right. Let me tell you, yeah, you definitely, like, you do not want to go through that, because once somebody knows where you live, and if they do want to act crazy or things don't work out, any of that, then of course it can be a lot harder to cut that tie or to get rid of them, in a sense, because they know where you live. And you got people that, you know, would just try to pop up on you. I'm telling you, like I said, I haven't had any extremely crazy stories about that, but I know of people that have. And that's not just on the male side. You know, what's
Yeah,
really
that's
kind of
what.
making it bad is that you got females doing stuff like that, and they'll just, like, I'm talking about, like, the if the guy or the female, either way, have told you I'm not interested in you. I don't want to talk. I don't want to deal with you like that. And you still trying to reach out to this person, connect with them. You still want to you're still trying to call them, or worst case, still, if they're still trying to pop up over at your house, like that's the kind of stuff right there that, yeah, it's just gonna say it's crazy, but it's happening.
Yeah.
I
People
mean,
don't respect boundaries.
it really has happened to more people, than not. So yeah, so it's about, you have to enforce those boundaries. You have to really, I think it really is about getting to that certain level of comfort, and getting to a certain point where you really are like, okay, I feel like, this person, I have, if you got confirmation from God and you haven't gotten any crazy red flags that, they can't be trusted with that privilege of being able to know where you live and have access to you like that, and that they want to abuse it. And you got to that certain point in the dating phase where you feel like, okay, now is a good time. So I say, I agree. I don't really think it's a set exact time just across the board for like everybody. I think it just varies, and it's all about when you get to that level of, comfortability. And also, I believe that person has to have shown like some kind of longevity. Like it can't just be, okay, we went out on a date, so now they can come over to my house, type of thing. Or there has to be some kind of, you feel like this person may be around for a while, or you want them to be around, and they also feel the same way, and so you feel like it's time to take it to that next step. So I think, yeah, it is on a case by case, individual basis, to get that certain level of comfort. And also you have to make sure that your discernment is where it should be, and also consult God, and also be, okay, God, is now a good time for this person to come to my house, to my home, know where I live? Especially if you got children or kids at home, that's an even more delicate situation. So we don't really have time to get into that tonight. I would love to get into some more questions and scenarios with this topic. Maybe we might do a part 2. Y'all want to do a part 2?
That would be good.
Yeah. I know we kind of got started a little late, and there's so much, to dive into with this topic. So I may end up doing a part 2. So stay tuned for that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap these up, because we've been on here a long time, or I didn't mean to stay on this long, but I thank you so much to each of you who stayed on to the end. You're going to get a special treat. So those that had to drop off, they missed it, but I know they had to go for other reasons, but I want to be able to reward those of you who stayed to the end, especially being that we went over, because I appreciate and I value your time. So you are going to get a special treat for staying on to the end and participating, but staying on to the end, especially for tonight's Diva discussions. I appreciate that so much. So what I'm gonna do is I will be sending you all an email. You, Monica, and Crystal. I'll be sending you all an email and letting you know what that will be. Okay, so stay tuned with that. You probably will be getting it by tomorrow, because it's getting kind of late, and I gotta get ready to wrap it up because my work day starts early in the morning. So I gotta get my child into bed and all of that, because I'm sure she probably is still up. So anyway, but that concludes our Diva discussions for tonight. Before you all drop off, I just wanted to share one really quick thing with you all. But thank you so much for you all for joining on. I really enjoyed this discussion tonight. It provided a lot of insight. I hope that you were able to get something out of it. But real quick, if Monica and Crystal, maybe if you could put it in the chat if you're not able to talk, put it in the chat. What was your biggest takeaway? And D.I.V.A, if you want to just go ahead and share, like, what was like one of your main takeaways from tonight's discussion?
I think that your suggestion about the pre-date, kind of like a pre-date, That resonated
Yeah.
with me.
Like a meet and greet, I'm telling you, it would save
Yeah,
you so
meet and
much
greet.
time. Like, do a meet and greet when
Yeah.
you get to that point where if it's presented or you meet someone new, like, don't just start out with just going out on a full-fledged date. Like, just do a quick meet and greet, and you kind of can get all that initial nervousness out the way too. But it's gonna just let you know, like, whether or not you should even proceed and move forward with this person. Okay. And it doesn't have to be, don't treat it like an interview. But of course, you do want to ask some, the basic standard questions, and you kind of can get a feel for them. But because they make sure that it's like no more than an hour. I would say an hour is even kind of long for me. I would keep it somewhere between like maybe like about 20 to 45 minutes. And then it may end up being a little bit longer. And if it does, that just means that, okay, this could be a really good start to something. But that's the purpose of a meet and greet, to not waste your time and go on a date with somebody that is not even really, worthy of going, worth your time of going on a date with. But yeah, that's really good. Anybody else? Monica, okay, meet and greet. All right, Crystal. You still with us? You want to share like what your biggest takeaway?
Hey, Chatney.
Hey, Crystal. Okay, so actually, well, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself really quick and say where you're calling from and why you joined the discussion, since you weren't able to do that earlier?
Hi, I'm Crystal. I live in North Carolina. I live in Gastonia, North Carolina, actually. I moved here about 3 years ago. I'm having a new start. I'm single. I'm divorced about 3 years now. So I'm new to these dating streets.
I'm telling you, it's rough out here in these dating streets. Ain't it?
It's crazy.
It is rough out
Yeah,
here in these dating
I was
streets.
trying to wrap up work because I was still working, but I wanted to get other things. So I was trying to do two things at one time.
Okay,
But
okay, no problem. Well,
from the
I'm
parts
glad.
that
I'm
I
glad
did
that you
hear,
joined tonight.
I'm glad I did too, because it tells me I'm not crazy. But I did enjoy a couple of snippets I did hear that was really good. I missed part of what you said about the meet and greet, but that is a great idea. I liked what you were talking about when you were saying about letting people into your private space. I'm real funny about that. From how I grew up, if it ain't to a point where I'm feeling comfortable with you or this is going somewhere and we're going to a next level, we're not doing that. We're going to be meeting wherever we got to meet and hang out or whatever. I don't even, if they say they want to go on a date, I'm not going to get in the car with them for a minute.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that, but yeah, that also is a great point. Like, make sure that you driving separate vehicles. Like, when you going on a date, we're going on these dates, until it gets to the point where y'all are like established or it's pretty much official, and y'all don't need to, be riding in the same vehicle. That way, if things ever go south and
Right.
if you need to leave or exit, you can do that. You don't have to
Yes.
worry about being stranded or something happening and you got to catch an Uber or something because they decide, okay, you don't want to finish this date or whatever. I ain't taking you home. I mean, any kind of craziness. So yeah, it's always best to drive, separate vehicles, meet at the place you're going to meet at until you get to a point where, listen, I think it's all about your level of, comfortability, and also that you see that it's going somewhere and this is going to be something solid before you start, riding together to the, to your destination where you're going
Right.
out on a date until they start coming over your home and you're going over their home, stuff like that. Like, because I'm telling you, when you start doing that stuff too soon, it causes the pace of things to go faster than what it should be, because you're doing things like you're pretty much putting the cart before the horse. So it's gonna naturally cause the pace of the relationship to go much faster. Like, that's what happened when it came to me and my child's fathers, because we were doing stuff way too soon, way too fast. There wasn't really a lot of boundaries put in place, and it was just things was just going and going and going. They were just going out of control, and I just got caught up in it before I even realized it. So that's why, yeah, it's definitely important to not to try to do too many things too soon. Okay, but that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your feedback. And thank you for joining us tonight. So that concludes our, I'm going to end the recording. Y'all hang up for one moment. Thank you so much, y'all, for joining tonight's Diva discussions. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you all have a wonderful evening.